Welcome to the Smarter Science of Slim, the scientifically proven program where you eat more and exercise less to burn fat and boost health.
Eat smarter, exercise smarter, live better. I am so ready for that. Hi everyone, this is Jonathan Bailor, and well, actually no, this isn't Jonathan Bailor, this is Carrie Brown, and that is Jonathan Bailor.
Yes, folks, I have not gotten a significant surgery and moved to England over the past year.
Hi Jonathan.
Past week. It feels like it's been a year. It's been a long week, Carrie.
Hi Jonathan.
Hello, Carrie.
How are you?
I am quite well. I'm incredibly warm. It is incredibly warm in our studio right now. Warm! Oh, goodness. You know what else makes me warm? It sounds awkward.
What are we talking about today,
Carrie,
Jonathan?
So I want to start. I'm literally wiping sweat off my face right now. I want our listeners to start by drawing something.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you have pens and paper, lovely people?
Lovely people, if you're driving,
Don't do this.
Don't do this. Don't do this. But if you have a tablet, computer, you can do anything that you can draw with. Please do the following. Okay. Draw a circle on the left-hand side of whatever you're using. And now I want you to draw a second circle, but I do not want it to touch or overlap with that first circle at all. I'll do it over here so Carrie can see what I'm doing. Okay, so you've got two circles. It should look kind of like two eyeballs. They're not connecting. And then above the circle on the left, right, doesn't contain, right, doesn't contain calories. So you're writing the words, doesn't contain calories. And then above the circle on the right, write the words, does contain calories. And I can't spell the word does, apparently. Thank God for Microsoft Word and spell check. Okay, so now you have two circles that do not touch or overlap in any way. One of them represents all of the things in the world that do not contain calories. The other one represents all of the things in the world that contain calories. And they do not overlap because they are mutually exclusive, right? Something cannot contain and not contain calories at the same time. You with me so far, Carrie?
I am, because you drew the visual for me and I didn't have to do that. Thank you, Jonathan.
So the reason I'm doing this, folks, is that so if you look at the circle that represents all of the things in the world that don't contain calories, like rocks and cars and a computer, like there's lots of diverse things in the world that obviously do not contain calories. And certainly no one would say, well, those things are all the same, Carrie, because they all just don't contain calories. They're all the same. But what's crazy, people, is that if you look at the circle on the right, the circle that represents things that do contain calories, it seems like the fact that in the mainstream, just because all of the things in that circle, vegetables, fruits, nuts, seeds, meat, fish, Little Debbie snack cakes, anything, soda, because it contains calories, well, it's all the same, and if we just eat 1,200 of them, we'll be slim and healthy for the rest of our lives. Like, how isn't, like, it's absurd to equivalence class everything that doesn't contain calories. We get that. Like, obviously, a computer is not the same as a race car. But for some reason, it does make sense to say that 300 calories of spinach is the same as 300 calories of soda just because they both contain 300 calories?
You know, for some strange reason, it doesn't make sense to me anymore.
I don't know if I went too far off the ranch there, but I was thinking about that the other night while I was laying in bed, and I was like, truly, because this is where I'm going with this, Carrie, is, for example, medications. So pills are incredibly highly regulated, and you can't, like a child can't just go to the store with $5 they got from their parents and buy pills, like over-the-counter medication. Now, what is the difference? Like, we know there are studies that show that that child could go to the store and buy a can of Pepsi, and that can of Pepsi contains calories. Like, it's edible, just like pills are edible. And it contains way more damaging chemicals and substances than that bottle of pills that they can't buy. But it's like, because one contains calories, it's called food, and we're led to believe, well, you have to eat and you need calories or you die. So therefore, like, anything that contains calories is going to be treated different than anything that doesn't contain calories. But like, I'm just trying to figure out why there is such a huge disconnect where, like, we regulate the heck out of tobacco and pharmaceuticals, but if you call something edible, if it contains calories,
it's a free-for-all.
Well, it's just, you gotta eat, so blah, blah, blah. You gotta eat. You can't compare eating to smoking because you can just not smoke.
You see, people, this is what Jonathan Bailor thinks about at night.
But it's true, right? I mean, I was talking to a brilliant, like, this was like literally one of the predominant influencers in mainstream medicine. And he was talking about how you can't, well, everyone, it's more complicated because you can just not smoke. You can't just not eat. But that's a false dichotomy. No, when people say don't smoke, they're not saying don't breathe. They're saying don't breathe in smoke-filled air. And no one over here to Smarter Science of Slim or anyone with a sane mindset is saying don't eat. We're saying eat a lot. We're just saying don't eat toxic stuff. Right?
How sensible is that, Jonathan?
Well, so I don't know if this picture was at all helpful, folks. I may have just confused you.
It amused the heck out of me.
But literally, think about that. The next time someone says a calorie is a calorie is a calorie, like, is a car a car a car? Like, is a Ford the same as a Ferrari? Like, this, that myth is so ridiculous for so many reasons that we just need to throw it out the window.
Okay.
Gone? Is it out the window?
Gone.
Lord knows we could use some windows in here because it is dang hot in here right now.
Stop whining, Bailor. What's the next thing we're talking about?
The other thing, so maybe this is more of a podcast of common sense that is not so common. So the first bit of common sense that is not so common is that just like things that don't contain calories aren't all the same, things that do contain calories obviously are not all the same. Just an interesting thought experiment. Second thought experiment is this, and this, I'm guilty of this too, Carrie, I think we all are, is that when we start to go sane, when we start to eat a diet much richer in things we do need and not so high in things we don't need, everything about our life improves. Like, diseases go away, we just feel better, and everyone, including myself, is like, this is miraculous. But when you think about, like, diseases happen, bad things happen when you take a system and you put things in it that it's not designed to handle. Like, you will never get the flu unless the flu virus gets into your body. Like, the flu just can't happen spontaneously. You don't just spontaneously get the flu. Something has to happen to trigger that.
It might feel like that sometimes.
No, I know.
But
the key here is that, and it's awesome, like, when we stop eating caloric sweeteners and just enjoy whole, hearty, delicious, natural foods, you just don't get diabetes. And you just sleep better. And your skin looks better. And your hair looks better. And it seems miraculous. And it is miraculous. But it's also,
how it should be.
Yeah, and if you don't eat poison, you will not get poisoned.
It seems so obvious.
but it's not, because, and here's the problem. I was like, right. I asked myself, Carrie, why isn't this obvious? Watch any television station. All you hear is about how broken we are, about how much medication we need, about how much clothing we need to buy, about all this stuff we need because we are fundamentally not good enough, that we are broken or inadequate in some way. God forbid that if we just don't introduce poison into our body, that we will stay healthy, we will be beautiful, and we will be fully capable, because that is our innate, that is our natural state. Our natural state is not one of being broken that needs fixing and medication and cosmetics and clothing and all this material garbage. Our natural state is to be resistant to disease and resistant to dysfunction naturally. And that's like, it's unfortunate that we've lost that, but it's so exciting to bring it back.
It's so simple when you say it like you just did.
So hopefully that was just, Jonathan's second random musing, and I thought it was, I don't know, it made me excited and inspired in me because my wife and I continue to, I continue to try to find ways to tweak my sanity, Carrie, and I know you do the same. And
actually, no, I get you to tweak my sanity. And I have a personal sanity tweaker.
And both Carrie, myself, and my dear wife, and the reason I just use the three of us is because we are some of the original SANE livers, so we've been doing it for, in many ways, the longest time. We continue to see these improvements, and I personally still continue to be like, this is amazing. And then I say to myself, wait, self, like, that's the natural state for the human body.
Right.
And we've just, but I mean, how, like, take a step back, folks. Like, I'm not
unhealthy has just become normal. It's just become, and we don't even feel the effects of it anymore because it's just how things are. And
Carrie, not only that, but, and tell me if I go too far out here, but in some ways it's almost like we've been trained to take pride in it. Like, look at all the, like, when there's a commercial for a medicine, they make it sound like, oh, like, you can, like, it's an accomplishment to take this medicine, or it's good, like, you should, it's woohoo, like, it's almost attention. Like, look at all these pills I take. Woohoo, I'm like I don't know. Like, but it's not. It's almost like to be sick is almost glorified in our culture, and you don't have to be sick. In fact, your body doesn't want you to be sick.
Right. We just make it very, very hard for it not to be.
And that has to be true.
And not consciously, though.
Exactly. And when we say, actually, it's not, we don't. It's this, I mean, I hate to, like, blame things on the media and blah, 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 but the bottom line is, and this is not a conspiracy theory, it's a fact, there is very little money to be made off of happy, healthy people. Because if you're satisfied and you have no needs, you're like, I'm good. I don't even give you any money for anything because I have no problems I need you to solve. But if I can convince you that you have all of these problems, and I can sell you things that make you have even more problems, well, then I can sell you things to solve the problems that were caused by the things that I sold you in the first place.
That you didn't even know you had.
So I just think it's so cool, Carrie, because when we realize not only on a physical level, but on a spiritual level, that innate worth and that innate brilliance that's within the body. And even that's why I get so hyped up about this whole manual calorie math idea. The idea that we need to consciously count calories, embedded in that is that our bodies are dumb.
I'd never thought of it like that, but you're right.
Like, the reason you don't, I mean, it's
if
like,
we have to control it, it's because our body can't do it on its own.
Like, your body is stupid, which is, regardless of someone's religious beliefs. Like, I've always been taught that the belief in, whether you believe in intelligent design or you believe in evolution, in both cases, an intelligent designer would create something intelligent. And evolution would evolve something that thrives in its environment. Thrives in its environment. Like, if we were supposed to be sick and supposed to be diabetic, one, that's not an intelligent design, that's an unintelligent design, and if we were designed, I'm sure it was by something or someone that was intelligent. And if evolution is at play, well, then we would not have evolved this far,
right,
if all of us got sick and diabetic along the way.
Right, because we wouldn't have thrived.
Exactly. So sometimes when we reframe some of this stuff, it's just like, if for no other reason, don't worry about counting calories because it's demeaning.
That's true.
It really is. It's just demeaning. It's trivializing the brilliance and the beauty that is your body.
You're making me think really hard tonight, Jonathan.
I told you, this is like my profound Jonathan laying in bed thoughts, but they might be bonkers. So I hope at least a couple of them stick. What do you think?
My brain's going 100 miles an hour now because you've made me think about all this stuff, but it's good stuff. Really good stuff.
It's good stuff.
It's stuff we should be thinking about.
So I think popping out a level, stopping for a second. I know top 10 lists are sexy and do this trick and this gimmick, but sometimes, man, just stepping back for a moment and realizing that and let's break this down even more deeply, Carrie. Folks probably are familiar a little bit with the way our brains work. From an extremely high level, there's different parts of your brain, right? Like you have the amygdala, which sits at the stem of your brain, which is a portion of our brain that we share with animals. It's your animal brain. So if I were to like throw a baseball at your face, you would move without any conscious thought, because your amygdala would be like, caution, ball flying at face, move your head. This is also why if someone were to like blow dust in your face, your eyes blink. You didn't think about that, but your eyes somehow know that there are these tiny particles approaching it and it needs to close. Okay, so that's your amygdala. That's what we share with animals. We have this whole other part of our brain, which interestingly enough, when a baby is developing in utero, it also grows the last. It's also the last to appear. If you follow evolution, it's the last to appear in our evolutionary heritage, called our neocortex. It sits at the front of our brain, and it's what allows for rational thought and the most advanced forms of thinking, like the fact that humans can think about our thoughts. This is why a lot of us are on some level neurotic, because like if you're like me, you think about your thoughts way too much.
Yeah, you and me both.
So the brilliant thing, so our neocortex is what makes us uniquely human. Like it's why we can create music, and it's why we can do these things that really have no practical purpose. Like art is not required for survival.
But it's lovely nonetheless.
But it's lovely. Carrie's delicious recipes, like making food into culinary delights, is not needed for evolutionary survival. But our neocortex
sure makes life more fun.
Absolutely. But now, here's the key thing, folks, why I delineate your amygdala from your neocortex. Your neocortex is what you use for conscious things. Like if you've ever driven somewhere and been doing like 15 different things simultaneously, which you probably shouldn't, you'll notice that after a while you can drive without thinking, right? Like you'll get to work and be like,
how did I get here?
How did I get here, right? So that's your animal brain has basically taken over and has put you on autopilot. That's really important, because you can only think about one thing consciously at a time. If you don't believe me, try to say the alphabet in your brain and read a sentence simultaneously. You can't. You'll switch back and forth between the two.
Well, now I'm trying to do that and record a podcast, and my brain is going to explode.
So you can't multitask when it comes to conscious activities, but you can walk, chew gum, and have a conversation, because walking and chewing gum are not conscious activities, and the conversation, though, is a conscious activity. Okay, I say all of this.
Yes, you did.
Because that core body functions. So I think we can all agree that not starving, core body function, not being overweight, core body function, because it harms your health. Just like having your blood sugar be too low or too high, core body function, blood pressure too low or too high, breathing too little, breathing too much, sleeping too little, sleeping too much, going to the bathroom. Like if we had to be like, do I need to go to the bathroom now? There are people that they have catheters. We don't need that. All of these mission critical bodily functions, animal brain, amygdala, hypothalamus, animal brain, cannot require conscious control, because if they did, we would not get anything else done. If you had to monitor your respiratory rate,
we literally couldn't do anything else if we were having to think about that.
You literally, not only could you not, just from a common sense perspective, if you had to monitor calories out, like calories out is an incredibly, like when our body builds new tissue, which it does, like how are you going to calculate that? How are you going to calculate how many calories it costs to build 250 grams of new body tissue today? But you can't. It just doesn't.
I'm sure somebody has worked that out, posted it on the internet somewhere.
But the key point here, folks, is that when someone talks about you need to count calories, in a case of severe metabolic dysfunction, like you don't need to consciously regulate breaths in and breaths out, but if your lungs break, you might need to. Like you might need a respirator. And if your ability to regulate blood sugar breaks, you might need to. That's called diabetes, and you need to take insulin shots. But that's a pain. That's us having to take over what should be a subconscious activity. Again, getting back to the brilliance of our body. Our neocortex, our conscious brains, let's spend those on art, on poetry, on love, on relationships.
Cooking, don't forget cooking.
On cooking, not on calorie counting.
You actually made it sound quite absurd.
So, anyway, I like people, and I think we're good. And I think sometimes we are trivialized, and that gets me riled up.
Yes. I think our bodies are clearly way, 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 way cleverer than we give them credit for.
Absolutely. Carrie, that was like our metaphysical podcast.
Wow, that was a viewing to how Jonathan doesn't get to sleep at night ever.
Well, listeners, I hope you enjoyed the babblings that were today's podcast. We'll bring it back down to earth next week. Don't worry.
Well, I like that. That was fun.
Oh, okay.
Except you made me think a bit too much.
I made you use
now
your
I won't be able to
neocortex.
sleep tonight.
Did I make you use your neocortex
Yes,
too
you
much? Listeners, I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. It's been a blast, although we went a bit out there. And remember this week and every week after, eat smarter, exercise smarter, and live better. Chat with you soon.
See ya.
Wait, don't stop listening yet.
You can get fabulous free SANE recipes over at carriebrown.com.
And don't forget your 100% free eating and exercise quick start program, as well as free, fun, daily tips delivered right into your inbox at bailorgroup.com. That's BAILOR group.com.